Start it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, it is recording. Okay,
All
Keanon,
right.
welcome to my new channel. This is called Inner Sight. So I'm making this channel because the whole world is in this global health crisis, and it's kind of forced us to be in this time where our social lives are kind of taking a hold, and we're like have this time to really go inside ourselves and reflect. And so I'm trying to help create this space where we can start to seek out our inner sight and just think about humanity and what are our next steps forward. Hey Keanon, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, just like say what you're doing right now in life, like if you're in school, um, just what do you enjoy to do, those types of things.
Well, my name is Keanon Royal Assiniboine. I come from the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe Reservation. I'm Ojibwe Cree, and it's from the Algonquin family. Right now, really in life, I have a baby on the way, so I've just been trying to make sure my lady stays inside, and I try to make sure she's safe and has everything she needs. Just basically doing everything that for my family. Uh, just trying to really stay distant from a lot of other people. I've been just going to my brother's house, visiting him whenever I get bored. Um,
Mm.
I like to do a lot of things. I like to play football. I grew up doing martial arts. I like to wrestle, box. I like to do a lot of sports, contact sports. I like to do that, but I also like to be an advocate for the Native American people.
Mm.
I like to do that. I like to be a positive advocate. Because I know there's a lot of things that go on in Native country that are unseen by the world. Like there's a lot of facts that they're false. There's a lot. We're probably Native Americans live in probably the most poverty. And it's just there's kids out here that the suicide rate is through the roof. So I try to be a good person for the youth to look up to.
Mm.
Um, that's what I try to do. I be sober because I come from a family where my dad died from cirrhosis. He drank his whole life, did drugs. My mom, she she used to be on a lot of drugs and stuff, and she used to be in that wildlife. But before she had me, she cleaned her life up, fortunately, and I'm very thankful for that. And I don't know, me, yeah, I like to sing. Um, I like to sing powwow. I like to go to powwows. I like to go to ceremony. Um, I don't know, like one thing I always noticed about me is, well, not like I'm not bragging, but like one thing I would like other people to know that it's possible, to get good out of the worst things in life. Because like even my dad, I never seen him, never really talked to him. Even when I did see him, sometimes he didn't even know who I was. But whenever like I see everything that he does, and he was my influence to not drink. He was my influence to be a better person. Because that's the thing, though. Like people talk about, I have no good influences. I have no good people to look up to. You don't need any of that. You need yourself. If you have yourself, and if you look at things from different perspectives, then I believe that like you can do good with yourself.
Mm.
And you can do good for people around you. Like me, I pick up things. Everybody's a teacher. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
random strangers are teachers. Like my dad, I learned from him not to drink. I learned from him to be sober. My brother, my
Can
older
you
brothers,
can you go a little more into that? Like so, how did you learn from him to be
my
sober?
my father.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. It's just it wasn't easy to learn, you know. It was but yeah, it wasn't easy. Um, I really just it starts with a lot of anger. With me, it started with a lot of anger inside because I hadn't like I don't know. I would mess up in life and I'd say, "Oh well, if I had a dad, if I had a dad, if I had a dad." But over time, you know, it's just over time it teaches you something, you know, like to look at things. Like if you really want to push for a better life, it's possible. You could take the worst person in the world, and they could be a great person. Like, oh man, it's so hard to explain though. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. So it's, I don't know, it's this idea of being that, like you said, being able to search like within yourself to find that, um, I can't believe this. I'm going to bring this up because someone shared this really cool story to me, and they were sharing how, when miners, they get trapped in the cave sometimes. So this story was talking about how when they're in the cave, sometimes it's better for them to not try and escape and get out, because as they do that and they exert themselves, they use too much oxygen, So they actually have to control themselves and just like stay in one spot as much as they can so they don't like limit the oxygen that's in that confined space. But what they were saying was that the greatest tool for the miners in those times is hope. And when you can't do anything else, to be able to have that hope so that when they someone comes and they finally digs them out, they'll still be alive. But I don't know, I just was reflecting on that. Someone shared that with me yesterday, and I think it kind of goes along with this idea of being able to look within yourself to find that, even when circumstances seem like you know impossible or unachievable.
Definitely. Like, you gotta have hope, even when it seems like there's none. There's always a reason to have hope.
Yeah.
You know, everybody sees struggle. There's not one person in this world that doesn't see struggle, doesn't see pain, doesn't feel pain. I don't know, like uh, back to what I was saying about my dad. You know, he wasn't there, but that really persuaded me to be there for my kid. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I took that from him. That taught me something. He said he taught me not to be like him,
Mm.
and I didn't. He didn't tell me that, but I just it's all from having like common sense, you know. Like I don't know, it's weird, like surrounding yourself with the right people. Uh, the most important thing, you know, I would say it's the most important thing in Indian country, but I want to say it's the most important thing at all is to be a sober person. Because whenever you drink and stuff like that, it ruptures who you are. When you do drugs, it ruptures who you are.
Mm.
Then I learned that being a sober person is very important. Um, I don't know. He just, like I said, you know, it's a lot of it came off anger. Really, at first it was I was a young kid. I was a young kid whenever he passed away. I think I was 14. Young. I was 14 and he died from cirrhosis. He called me. I think it was. I think it was the day of my birthday when I was 14, and he said, "I'm in the hospital right now." He said, "My liver's bleeding," and he said, "I want you to come see me." But the sad part is about all that, I had so much anger in me. I didn't even bother. He was in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I was in town at the time. And my mom asked me if I wanted to stop there. I said no. I didn't know him. I was scared. Uh, yeah, that that's something I lingered on for a long time. I give myself stuff for that for a long time. Slap myself in the back of the head. I always cut myself down over that, but over time I learned, that like he was there to teach me something. He didn't teach me hand in hand how to be a good person, a good father, but he gave me an example of what a good father isn't.
Mm.
And it's hard to say that about your own father, but it's really the truth. He loved me. I'll tell you that. He did love me, but there's something about, like, I don't know, it goes deep, The pain goes deep generations back with Native people. Like us, we went through residential schools from where priests used to beat us and, rape our ancestors, and those people used to drink. And this is how I look at it. I don't know if anybody else looks at it this way. Those people used to drink after that. They couldn't bear what happened to them. And this wasn't long ago. This was 100 years ago.
I know.
100 years ago, 150 years ago.
Mm.
They couldn't bear what happened, so they drink. Then their kids grow up around that. They have kids with someone. Their kids grow up around that. Their kids think that's okay. So then they drink around their kids. Then their kids think that's okay. And it's a big cycle.
Mm.
And I think that's how a lot of people are scared. And it's really about one generation picking up and breaking a cycle.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like basically what I'm trying to say with my dad is you never know where you're going to get your motivation from.
Yes. I agree. It's so interesting. One time it was one of my first experiences seeing. Yeah. Okay. It was one of my first experiences seeing some of those effects when I visited North and South Dakota for the first time. And I remember seeing the alcoholism and the high suicide rate, and remember thinking, just crying. It was so painful, to see that. And then to have the realization that there's a reason behind it, there's this interconnected reason, like you said, with how people were treated, and how they weren't treated like equals, and just terribly. And I was talking with one person about it as I was crying, and I was like, I saw so much pain, and he was telling me it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it depends on how you use it,
Yeah.
And so it's motivated me to really start to get this bigger picture. And I search for more and more knowledge about what is it like around the world, and like, what's the history that like brought us to today? We've had all these developments, which are signs of this like power that we have as humans. I mean, just in the last 100 years, we went from going, not is 100 now, but maybe a little more than 100 now, but like very early 1900s, they didn't even have cars. And now all of a sudden we have planes and everything. Look at what we're doing. We're just in our houses talking on videos. This was a thing in sci-fi movies, but it's just a really short amount of time. These are signs that like we have so much more potential than we ever think. And so anyway, but like you said, that those moments really motivated me to start searching deeper to see, okay, we've done all these things and that's great, but how can we be even better so that, the types of things that you're describing eventually leave this earth, those types of situations, those types of taking advantage of certain people's.
What's crazy is one thing I learned though is that all us humans, we're all visitors.
Mm.
We're without water, we wouldn't live. Without oxygen, we wouldn't live. Without the ozone layer, we wouldn't live. Without this grass and dirt, we wouldn't live. But without us, the earth would still live.
Mm. Yeah.
Without us, the earth would be 1,000 times better. So we always got to remember that we're visitors. And I think a lot of people who are here in modern day who try to create this technology, you know, it's a good thing we evolve as people, you know, but it's always a good thing to remember where we're at and remember whose territory we're on. Like a lot of tribes don't worship a god; they worship Mother Earth.
Mm.
A lot of tribes don't worship Mother Earth; they would worship an animal.
Mm.
It's really, it all comes down to really simple things. Like the smartest people in the world, I guarantee you, they probably don't have like as much book knowledge as a lot of other people. Like Francis Crick, you probably heard of him.
Yeah.
He's one of the smartest people anybody knows. You could ask anybody from where I'm from. He's a great person, and you know he only has a third grade education.
Wow.
Went up to third grade, and he didn't go to school after that. It's really all about like one thing I learned is I can't take this sweater. I can't take my Jordans. I can't take my hats. I can't take my earrings. None of my gold. I can't take none of it over to the other world. I can't take none of it. The only thing I could take is my knowledge.
Mm.
That's all I could take. From this world to that world, all I have is my knowledge. Everything I learned in this world. So I don't know. Like that's the way I try to think of. Because like I could try and be a millionaire. I could try and do all that, but none of that's gonna matter. We all end up going to one place, and that's back to Mother Earth.
Mm. Very true. Very true. So Keanon, a question for you, maybe a somewhat of a closing question. So why do you still fight for your community, your family? Why do you choose to continue fighting for that and living your life the way you do?
It's really, I think everybody would fight for it, honestly. Like, if everybody had the knowledge I knew about what happened in the past, like just for my reservation, for Indian people, if everybody had the knowledge of what happened in the past, if they seen everything that happened, if they do all that, you know, if they get the full experience, a lot would be changed.
Hmm.
Why do I keep fighting for everything? To be honest with you, it's just I don't feel right if I don't. Like if I don't do the right thing, I don't feel right at all. It's just um like with that trip to South Dakota, I was about to stay home
Mm-hmm.
because nobody else was going. Everybody dipped out on us. But then my uncle Max called me and he said, "You coming to South Dakota, boy? Everybody dipped out. I'm counting on you." And I could have said no. I could have said no. I'm gonna. I said, well, what I said is, I said no. I'm gonna. I told him at first. I said I'm gonna stay home. I said I think I'll probably just stay home. But then I thought about it. I said, well, I just lied to him. I just told him I had to stay home whenever I could just go.
Mm-hmm.
So I called him back. I said, yeah, I'll come. You know, it really hurts when you don't do the right thing. You know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just doing the right thing may not feel the best all the time because of all everything that goes on in the world. But at the end of the day, always make sure you have more good than bad in your life.
Beautiful, Keanon. Hey, everybody that's watching, I just want you to know Keanon is a great lyric writer, and he just released a new song on SoundCloud. It's
Yeah.
called Blood of a Warrior. And what is the artist name on there? Nietzsche?
Yeah, Nietzsche. It means friend in Ojibwe.
Awesome. So this song is great, and you could even hear about some of the stories that he's talked about in our interview today. He does it in rap, and it is really a great piece of music. So please go check it out. Blood of a Warrior, artist name Nietzsche, Neechee on SoundCloud.
Grandma making fried bread, yeah, she got my favorite recipe. Grandpa isn't here, but he's always in my memory. Busted up houses, yeah, my life's a documentary. Eating potted eggs while I'm waiting for the first. Strong for my mama, cause I know she had it worse. I pray every day, cause we killing Mother Earth. We was